Okay, hi, I'm Sophie. I'm the Communications Director at Red School, and I'm here today with Suad Ahmed, who's a psychotherapist and a graduate of our Menstruality Leadership Programme last year in 2021. Thank you so much for joining me today, Suad. I'd love to dive right in and ask, when you found out about the Menstruality Leadership Programme, what was it that inspired you to say yes and to join?
Cool. Thank you for having me. I think it came back of a few years of working with Sjanie and Alexandra, doing the other courses that they were offering in the UK at the time, and doing my own work and seeing how it transformed my life, and how something that was so painful became transformative, kind of growing out of that, almost like a phoenix out of the ashes of something that was kind of painful and difficult to be with, came something so beautiful. And speaking to other women, sharing it and seeing how widely experienced my feelings were, and other people were in the same boat. So I was like, this is important. And the more I'm sharing it, the more I'm learning about it. I was already doing a little bit of kind of like teaching and sharing some of the work. And so it was like, I really need to deepen my own practice and see how other people are doing it. And learn from that. And most importantly, and I was saying this in the first couple of weeks of the course, is to connect with my own cycle even deeper, learn from that, and use it as a catapult to like be able to like lead from it.
How did the program change your experience of your cycle? And maybe you could take us all the way back actually to how your experience of your cycle was before you discovered the work, and then how it's transformed.
I hear that. I came into the work because I was suffering really badly from like PMS, symptoms of kind of premenstrual, mostly emotional symptoms, really, kind of that anger, what was depression, that kind of depressive, like things are just not going well, being really irritable, feeling really hopeless, getting into situations where I was, real rage was coming out and not knowing where it come from, and then upsetting the other person, mostly my husband, who obviously we're in a close relationship with. So, and getting that feedback and seeing myself almost like lose control. And to be fair, like I think my PMS symptoms were there since I was a kind of a late teenager, but life is kind of easy when you're a student. It was kind of there, but I was able to kind of work with it. And then life, as you get older, life becomes more complicated. You get into relationships, you get into jobs, and I was working in the third sector. And so kind of working with people who are chaotic, there is a lot of sensitivities and emotional, kind of high emotional charges. So being with my own high emotional charge in that time really amplified that things weren't quite right. Like I wasn't coping very well. And I would share it in the women's circles I was going to. And eventually, one of the lovely ladies said, hey, I think this is, you can support yourself with this. It's not the end of the road. I was saying, I've been to my GP, I've talked about this, and I always get the same advice, which is, are you exercising? Are you eating well? Do you want to go on birth control? Do you want to go on antidepressants? None of which I was interested in, especially the last two. And I tried antidepressants. I was like, this is so bad. I'm going to give it a go. And I did. And it made it worse straight away. And it kind of went back to my gut instinct, which was, this isn't an illness. This is not something that I need to fix through taking medication. This is something else. So kind of still kind of out on the prowl until I found that. And the transformative bit, I think it was Lucy Pierce's book, something Moon, I've forgotten it. I share it all the time, but I've forgotten the title right now.
Yes, what is it? Yes. I can't
you know what? It's actually behind me. Moon. Let's have a look.
It's not the moon inside you.
Moontime.
Moontime. Yes.
Yes. It was such a simple introduction. This is before I was introduced to the Red School and I found out about their work. It was such a simple introduction into understanding the reason I'm feeling this stuff is because I'm not addressing other stuff, or I'm pushing myself too hard, or this is just, and this is the way that I love explaining it now to clients, which is PMS symptoms are a signal. They're a sign, they're information given to us to tell us something's not quite in balance, that we need to pay attention to something. They're not necessarily bad, they're not trying to bring me down. And taking that softer approach was really a relief moment, that this wasn't an illness, that I'm not losing my mind, which was something that I used to, it's really emotional to think about, to think that you're losing your mind. Am I am I losing it? So that was such a relief to know that actually this is just information. This is telling me something else needs to be paid attention to. So started with that, and then going into cycle charting and okay, what is actually going on? Where am I? You know, where are the kind of highs and lows of my cycle as a result of that? It's difficult to talk about, like to verbalize, right? Because it's almost a spiritual experience. It's you getting to know yourself. It's intuitive.
Yeah.
So yes, I decided to go into the course, having like worked on this for a few years, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go into it with an aim of deepening my practice. And also, I think it's really important, especially being a psychotherapist. I'm so aware of my mental well-being and my history and my narratives that one of the first things I said is, I know I push myself. I know I'm hard on myself, and the way that shows up in my cycle is that I don't allow myself to rest. I'm like having battles, which have got eased over time, and definitely were one of the kind of markers of the leadership course, which is working with the inner critic, starting to, rather than go face fire to fire, starting to come at it from a softer, more gracious angle, and trying to understand. And so I think what changed during the course is, one, slowing down, learning that rest isn't just doing nothing, but doing the things that really kind of nourish and recharge. And resting is not just 2 hours of doing nothing, because that feels okay to do. But what is it that makes, and I remember this was such a common experience in one of our groups, which is, oh, rest is for 2 hours. I should get up and do something now. Mm-hmm. I should be productive now. And that's where the time gets eaten up, especially during the inner winter. So slowly listening to how I can wind that down, and when that voice comes, like knowing that that's coming from a place of unworthiness, or having to work or be busy, or trying to avoid something by being busy. And is what I'm avoiding really that bad? You know, when I stop and listen, is there anything that is so scary? And if there is, then I can work with that. I can get support with that. But there wasn't. Hasn't resolved completely. It's a work in practice, but it started that. And I think the other thing that I've noticed since, obviously we finished in November, so it's been a few months, is noticing how my boundaries around my inner autumn become more stable.
Beautiful.
So yeah, so there's something about like kind of wanting to show up consistently throughout the month, like always doing the extra mile, always doing more, being there for people, socializing, doing this, doing that. And just noticing, you know, in a autumn, I no longer cook a fresh meal. I don't feel like it, you know, no longer having to go to the supermarket, or like, you know, things that you do in your daily life with your partner. You're like, oh, let's do this, let's do that. You know what, like, you go and do that. I'm all right here. And that's such a small thing. And it took a while to come to that place where it's like, oh no, I'm being lazy, or I'm putting the burden on the other person. But no, I don't want to make a cup of tea today. Can you make the tea?
Yeah, and these small things really add up, don't they? And it's how cycle awareness and intimacy with your cycle actually ripples out to basically every area of your life, your relationships. And let's talk about how it's impacted your work, actually. I'd love to hear how what you learned on the leadership program has supported your unique way of leading in the world.
I think what I really appreciate about the course, like the way that it's being taught by Sjanie and Alexandra, is that there isn't like a prescriptive way of being. We're not everyone's not leaving with like a list or a steps on how to be a leader. And I guess what's done for me is affirmed that I have something to offer, or that what I'm doing in the world is important in itself. It's worthy within itself. It has meaning within itself. It doesn't have to be exceptional or special, or because intrinsically everything we do is special, it is sacred. But there's a part of us in the society that we live in that is compared against somebody else, or like, is it as good as that? Is it as good as that? And so it's kind of pulled me away from that into a very intimate space of, this is right now, this is good enough. This is important enough. Me showing up every day is being a leader, especially when I'm showing up in session and being myself in session, that is a leadership that is enough. I'm not having to do extra stuff, or be exceptional, or do more, which actually blocks me from doing the work that I do. I don't know if you find that, like, you think, oh, I have to do more, which gets in the way of actually doing it.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and it's so true. In our world, there's this push for like bigger, better, faster, and actually more and more, I think we've seen this through the pandemic, that what the world needs is each of us being ourselves as fully as possible in the world that we're in, whether that's as a parent, as a carer, in a job role, doing something in our community. You know, it looks different for each of us, and what the world needs is each of us being ourselves.
Yeah, it's very simple, and actually it's about scaling back rather than trying to do more, and just seeing what is in that scaled back place, because it's all there. There's a, I can't remember, there's a quote by somebody, it's day 27, nothing is in memory right now, but kind of the fear of being a special being, the fear of being you, is what holds us back from being us. I'm not sure I've quite figured that out yet, but it's definitely stuck with me after the course. What is it that I'm bringing to the world that isn't about being more or bigger or better, but just me, because that's what we're bringing.
I think what
that's what I'm offering
is so important. I'm really appreciating your day 27 like liminal wisdom here. I'm drinking it in. Would you be able to share a few words about what it's like to learn from Alexandra and Sjanie? Like, what's their teaching style like?
Oh, it's so special. It's really, it's the first time that I've learned in this way, especially coming out of like formal education where it's very much theory based. Learning from Alexandra and Sjanie is like being seen. Each person is seen as their whole self, and their experience is important, and it's kind of brought into the teaching, or into the work in this very personalized way, which I really appreciate. And again, it's a lack of prescription. We're really working with what someone's bringing, and that's what they do so beautifully, which is why I love the live sessions, because someone will share their experience and suddenly it becomes applicable to every single person there, because it's a common life experience that we all share, rather than like, oh, let's go through the steps. And I love that kind of being seen in that moment and having your experience validated and brought in to the wider experience, and just that in itself, meaning everybody else has resonated and learned from it. I also love their sense of humor, which goes a long way in a topic that can sometimes be heavy, and experiences which can be heavy. Their honesty. I remember, this is way back a few years ago, I did a menstrual cycle awareness course with Alexandra, and I was telling her how on day one I'd feel all this love for the world, and I'd go around and share it with people and be the office kind of just be like a little bird, sprinkle love everywhere, and I make lunch and make tea for everybody. And she's like, no, don't do that. That's for you. You should not be sharing it around. That's for you to harness. And it was the first time someone has offered that to me in that very honest, real, and assertive way. That helped me claim it. And I'll never ever forget that moment. It was such a special way to be seen.
What would you say to someone who's thinking about joining the program, might have a few doubts, not quite sure if it's for them? They might be feeling a sense of imposter syndrome coming up, or finding it hard to invest the time and resource in themselves. What would you say to someone who's thinking about it but unsure?
I would say it's a chance to show up in whatever's coming up. I'm not sure there's ever a time to be ready necessarily to do most things, but with this, it's not a qualification. It's not like a thing to get for something necessarily. Could this be an opportunity to, just to be present, to arrive, to be seen? I found the course generally quite kind of a steady pace, and we're all kind of encouraged to take it in as we go. And it's interesting to come into it with a sense of like, ambiguity, or I'm not sure what this is or where it's going to go, because it's a chance to test that. test ourselves with, why am I feeling like this about something that is part of me, and seeing what that will bring. But mostly that's a transformative experience in some way or another. It will bring something, either like for us, for our families, for our children, for communities. It's offering, being present in it will deliver something. And it doesn't have to be what we think. I think that came out at the end of the course. I thought it would be like this and I'll be leaving feeling like X, Y. And actually it's changed, and it's even better or bigger than I thought. I didn't realize. So yeah, coming into it with no expectations and arriving as we are. I love that. Arrive as you are, come as you are. And yeah, and see what happens. It's a gift. Have the chance to do that.
Thanks, Suad. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your experience of the Menstruality Leadership Programme?
I'm really loving the community, Sophie, now that we're on Circle, the community of women sharing and the other personal experiences, all the work that they're doing, feeling part of a bigger, bigger community. Often we do this work in small groups, especially if you're working in private practice or at home. So having a place to be able to connect and listen and see what else is going on, it feels empowering. And this is a revolution. It's a what's the word? Yeah, it's a wave, and we're all part of it. And sometimes it can feel isolating, but kind of connecting the community again, it's like, oh no, people are on this journey and it's growing. So I'm really enjoying that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything you shared today.
Thank you.